Hello, it's John Mail from the Gassman Financial Group and G&G Planning, and I'm here today to talk to you about some quick and easy financial tips. So there's so many things that we can talk about as financial planners. The purpose of today's video is really just to talk about basic blocking and tackling, just some simple, easy things you can do to put yourself on solid financial footing. And one of the most basic is to avoid living paycheck to paycheck. We encourage clients to put together a budget and to track their spending. So we put up a recent YouTube video on budgeting, and we have other resources available on our website, www.gassmanfg.com. We encourage people to really get good at budgeting and look for opportunities within your budget to increase your rate of savings. And we often find that people are able to identify additional savings opportunities that maybe they weren't aware of or weren't fully taking advantage of before. So get good at budgeting, make savings a habit, and set specific and measurable goals based on your budget. And go back and track them periodically. Make sure that you're hitting your appropriate benchmarks and targets. And if you're not, you can always go back and revisit those and make adjustments as necessary. We encourage people to save at least a couple of months of pay. This is really based on your individual circumstances. So somebody that has a very stable career and very little risk of incurring unexpected expenses may need only a few months of living expenses in their emergency fund. So think of a college professor, for example, who's tenured and lives in a rent-stabilized New York City apartment and doesn't drive. So their rent is unlikely to increase by more than a few percent per year. They have a very stable career, and their unexpected expenses are limited largely to things like health-related expenses and the like. So maybe they don't need to have as large an emergency fund as, say, somebody who works on Wall Street in a very volatile career that has a couple of children, multiple residences. There's all sorts of unexpected expenses that could crop up for that person, and they have a unstable career. So having a year, maybe two, maybe even more of expenses saved in their emergency fund would be entirely appropriate. Putting money in the emergency fund isn't the end of the exercise. You should go back periodically, make sure there is indeed enough in the fund, and manage the short-term investments in the emergency fund to make sure you're getting the appropriate yields. You might use things like CDs or other short-term investments that have a short duration but earn a little bit more than just cash in the bank, along with the appropriate level of cash that you can tap immediately. So there's a method to putting an emergency fund together, and we do have resources on our website, again, www.gassmanfg.com, that addresses short-term savings allocations. Maximize the funding of your retirement accounts. This is pretty common financial planning advice. In most cases, it should be followed. You might want to shore up your emergency fund before you allocate money to longer-term purposes, but generally maxing out your retirement accounts is certainly not going to be injurious. So looking at your 401ks, IRAs, other types of retirement accounts, and getting as much in there as possible. It's important to begin saving for retirement early on. So you've seen a lot of statistics suggesting that if you start in your 20s, you don't have to save nearly as much as if you wait until you're in your 40s or your 50s. You're already pretty far behind at that point. So even if it's not as much as you'd like to be saving, save something as early as you can. And add to savings outside of your retirement account. So don't put everything in the 401k plan. Have a nice mix of IRA assets, tax-deferred assets, tax-free assets like a Roth IRA, and taxable accounts, old-fashioned brokerage or savings accounts. That gives you some planning opportunities later on in retirement. Diversify your investments. So we talk about diversifying the mix of your investments to help to control the downside risk. Also consider how long you'll be investing. If you're 30 years old and you're saving for retirement and you have a time horizon of 35 or 40 years, you can probably afford to be pretty aggressive with your investment mix. If you're 65 and you're approaching retirement within the next couple of months or years, you may want to dial down the risk a bit. Understand what your personal propensity for risk is and how comfortable you are taking risk. but we encourage younger people in particular to maybe step outside of their boundaries a little bit, take on a little extra risk in the effort to grow their retirement accounts over time. And again, use a mix of tax-deferred, taxable, and tax-free investments so you have some flexibility later in life to do some planning, as well as look for low-cost funds wherever possible. That just helps put more money into your pocket and will boost the returns of your investments, all things being equal. Basic things just to take care of your family. Review your insurance coverages. Make sure your disability, life insurance, and long-term care plans are up to date. Look at your estate planning documents, wills, powers of attorney, healthcare proxies. These are the basic documents that most everybody ought to have. In addition, people may be well advised to have certain trusts or other more complex documents, but consult with a good estate planning or elder care attorney to make sure you have the proper documents in place. And keep things organized. It's no better gift to somebody who's taking care of you when you're not able to take care of yourself than to keep things as organized for that person as possible. So keeping your documents organized, making sure information is accessible and available when it's needed is a really critical element of basic financial planning. So with that said, we hope you'll like and subscribe to our YouTube videos. Please visit us at www.gassmanfg.com and theretirementmaven.com for additional materials. Thank you very much. Have a great day.